So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. Welcome. So we are going to take the CAR members and players within the manufacturing sector through the status update on ACFTA, the opportunities that lie within ACFTA, and whatever that we need to know with regard to the facilitation that we will be getting from our bodies, inclusive of KRA, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Enterprise Development, Kenya Bureau of Standards, and also what our development partners who are looking at mainstreaming gender inclusivity look forward towards maybe ensuring that there is SME and women inclusion in cross-border trade. So to welcome officially us to this webinar, I'll invite Mr. Tobias Alando, the acting CEO, Kenya Association of Manufacturing, to give his opening remarks. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. It is indeed a pleasure. Tobias Alando is my name. I'm the acting CEO of KM. It is indeed a pleasure to have you all today as we discuss the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. As I start, I want to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of the WIM Chair, Madam Mary Ngechu, all representatives from State Department of Trade, from Kenya Bureau of Standards, from Kenya Revenue Authority, and our senior gender and trade experts present, Madam Rose, the KM members, the Fourth Estate, and all the guests invited. I would first start by quoting the former president of Congo, Fulbert Yolo, who said that the unity of Africa reflects the most noble of aims. It must be pursued by all who are convinced if it is necessity. The former president of Congo indeed saw a vision about Africa coming together. And what we are witnessing today is a demonstration that AfCFTA will indeed bring us together as a nation. The benefits around AfCFTA, of course, is around trade. We are looking at a borderless market of over 1.2 billion people, devoid of trade barriers and restriction. We are looking at an opportunity to enhance regional value chains for manufacturers, since the rules of origin will encourage sourcing of raw materials from within Africa. Manufacturers indeed will have an opportunity to trade with with countries with whom they do not have bilateral trade agreements. They shall also enjoy economies of scale and cheaper raw materials from state parties. Additionally, it shall help our local manufacturers even diversify export markets, our trading companies, export markets, by venturing into non-traditional markets such as the West and the North Africa. The boost in Africa trade will create more jobs and enhance skills transfer due to the liberalized movement of supply of goods and services. As you know, one of the aspirations of CAM as an organization is to increase the GDP contribution of the manufacturing sector through market access. So this provides indeed a great opportunity for us to find new markets for our goods. We are also witnessing a growing interest by African countries to trade with each other, demonstrated through this agreement, the AfCFTA. This calls for local manufacturers to diversify their export basket, enhance quality, improve productivity, increase the application of modern technology in the manufacturing process. It also calls for us to critically look at the conducive policy environment that will promote competitiveness and investment in all sectors of the economy. Among the challenges hindering the competitiveness of local industries, of course, we know is taxes, regulatory overreach, logistic costs, and trade barriers. We remember while the FTA was launched on 1st January 2021, symbolized commencements of trade under the preferential terms within Africa. There exist some challenges which I just want to mention, and I believe that the team that exists here will be able to address the challenges. So one of the challenges which we anticipate out of this session to have a feedback and a way forward on is around logistics, which is undeveloped transport and logistics system across the continent, with some countries having almost no roads, air or rail system. If you look at, for example, DRC and some parts of, particularly DRC, accessing that market in terms of infrastructure is a challenge. So if that can be addressed, indeed, it's a very good point. Another challenge that we anticipate is overlapping membership to trade blocks. We have regional trade blocks, the SADC, the COMESA of this world that we need to address because they are overlapping trade blocks. The third challenge that we are witness is non-uniform order clearance logistics across the continent. Everyone has their own custom guidelines and procedures that needs to be unified. The last challenge that we will anticipate in this FCTA is unfamiliar customs and administration procedures and transit policies of goods across different regional economic communities and among countries with no functional trade agreements. Ladies and gentlemen, today's forum seeks to unpack these challenges and opportunities to help the business community understand the practical steps to realize the way forward in regarding the opportunity that we have. We have in our midst experts who are negotiating the agreements to guide the business community on the best avenues to utilize this agreement. FCTA, of course, provides the best opportunity to realize our regional and national business goals. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this session, and I hope by the end of it, every business represented here will have a strategic way forward in terms of accessing the African market. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orlando, for your warm welcome. We are looking forward towards interacting with the rest of the stakeholders today, both with the manufacturers and with the experts that have joined us within this session. And to kick off the webinar today, I'll invite Mr. Walter Kamau, the Trade Advisor, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, to present a study that KM had done on the implications on AfCFTA on the manufacturing sector, the opportunities for the manufacturing sector within the continental free trade area, and also with regard to the opportunities with regard to creating continental value chains and regional value chains. So karibu, Mr. Walter Kamau. Just a note maybe to the attendees for this webinar, you may post in your questions through the question and answer function on this Zoom platform. And also you may use the chat function, and the panelists, the experts, and also the technical staff from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers will be in a position to respond to those queries during the question and answer session. Thank you. Walter, karibu.
Good morning, everybody. As you are been informed by Walter Kamau, by Abel Kamau, we are two Kamau, so sometimes it goes. I'm going to take you through our study findings. We are very active in these trade negotiations in the regional blocks, and we have seen the rise and establishment of the regional trade blocks, starting with the East African community, starting with the COMESA. Now we are in the AfCTA, and also in the tripartite. We were also very well conversant with European economic partnerships. So actually we have got a good grasp of what happens in these free trade areas agreements. Our study mainly in the AfCFTA was actually to prepare KM sectors to know what is likely to happen. I'm going to share that PowerPoint with you very shortly, and then I'll take you through. I'm glad also, Tobias, you have actually done well in mentioning some of these macroeconomic issues, which are really critical to address in AfCFTA. You have seen our slides before, also when we are trying to promote this FTA, because the bottom line, we think AfCFTA, there will be a gain once we prepare ourselves and we address the identified challenges, especially supply side challenges in a holistic manner. So let me not waste my time, because I was given 20 minutes. I've already used my maybe 3 minutes. I'll take you through, and I'll appreciate the questions. I also want to welcome Rotich if he's around, and because he's also going to give us more on where we are, whereby we may not have the updated updates. I want to start sharing my documents. If you're hearing me well, I'm starting to share the document now. The document is there.
Please proceed, Walter.
Right, share. I'm sure you can see the documents now. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it.
Yeah, you may put it in presentation mode.
Why in the presentation mode? Here. See this presentation mode. Wait there. Yeah. That's there. Then we use this one for scrolling up. It has gone up. Okay. This is all right. Right. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, my presentation is I'm going to introduce to you briefly on the AfCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area. I'll give you about, for you to understand it a bit, and I'm sure the teacher will also talk about it, but I'll talk on it very briefly, just coherent. I'll talk about the objectives of the study, and I want to talk slightly about the tariff liberalization schedules, which I think are very critical to businesses, because unless you understand this, because everybody's hope is for liberalization. When we started COMESA FTA, the following day it was FTA, but this one is a programmed free trade area with different packages of products categorized in different areas. And then I'll give you what was done. This study of ours was done by Dr. Margaret Shemegi. Most of you know her very well. She has been a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in the finance, and she's very conversant with these issues and policy issues. And finally, I'll give you what came out of recommendations of this study. Those are the issues I want to put. So, African Continental Free Trade Area, as you can see in my first slide, comes out of the objectives of African Economic Community and out of what they call Agenda 2063 for Africa, so that Africa economies can become integrated. You see, African economies are so fragmented, they don't realize economics of scale. And so they wanted to realize through this, through the regional expansion of intertrade, interregional communities. There are many, which I'll be covering on that. And that's well done and said. AfCFTA, I'll not talk so much about this one, but the main objective is actually to promote intra-AfCFTA members trade, both import and export. Currently, as you know, Africa trades more. 85%, Africa trades with the world 85%, and it trades itself only 15%. That's the potential we want to create in this regime. And after realizing that, we realized it can be done through freeing the trades, making it a single market, freeing them, easing the movement of goods and services also. so that these objectives can be realized. Africa, it's grouped in so many regional economic communities. We have got EAC, we have got COMESA, we have got SADC, we have got also inside them, like we have got ECOWAS of West Africa, we have got the Southern Africa Customs Union, all these multiplicities, we have got even IGAD, all these multiplicities really make it difficult. So they wanted one harmonized system so that we can realize economics of scale and enhance our exports and enhance our integration too. Currently, it constitutes with 55 African Union members who belong to different grouping. And I know, unless Rotish can update this, only out of this, we had 54 who had signed the agreement. And out of these 54 now, we know 49 have already ratified the agreement and now are ready to trade under the preferential treatment. According to the previous agreed decisions by the ministers for trade, and which was also seconded by the summit, trade is supposed to have started at 1st January 2021, but this has not really started because of the delays in finalization of some of the critical instruments required, including, for example, rules of origin, including the verified tariff offers, including giving list which pass the modalities and the test is according to the modalities which were done there. That is as far as is concerned. I know right now there are about 30 or that's one now tariff offers which have been verified, and Rotish can talk like that. I wanted to talk to present these tables. This is what actually we are dealing with in terms of tariff liberalization, and I can give you, for example, the level of ambition for immediate liberalization, which is supposed to be done within a period of 10 years, is 90%, and for both the least developing and developing countries, and least developing and developing countries, and most of them AfCFTA members are actually categorized as this developing country. There are quite a few numbers of developing countries like Kenya, South Africa, possibly Egypt, and the rest, and Mauritius, who are developing countries who are supposed to open their tariffs of 90% category within 5 years. These 90% categories, as I said, these are the products actually which are the current concern with us, because as you see, the products they are calling themselves sensitive products start to be liberalized from the 6th year, and they are normally put in category B. And those products, even like, for example, in the East African community, we have not actually agreed on our list of sensitive products. Neither have we even agreed on the list of what is supposed to constitute the exclusion list, which is normally referred as category C. And as you can see, sensitive products consists of 7% of the tariff lines, which are supposed to be liberalized within 10 years, starting from the 6th year for developing countries and 13 years for these developing countries. Kenya is in the East African community, which is which has majority of the least developing countries. So it was, I think it has got that policy space to do them, because it's in a customs union using one customs law. It cannot be able to apply its program of developing countries. So it's applying the program of least developing countries. So it will also open that sensitive list within that 13 years, and it will also open the immediate tariff liberalization within 10 years for their products. And then there is that exclusion list, which is supposed to compose of 3% of the tariff range, with a clause that out of that list, 10% of the intra-Africa trade, imports and exports, you cannot include more than 3% of what is traded in that 3%. That 3% should not constitute more than 10% of what is traded in the intra-trade. So that's about AfCFTA. That is, let us now go to the study itself, and Abel will be sharing with you. We did in the past, we have done, we have got a detailed study, a very big one, more than 100 pages. We have also have a brief version for those people who like to understand it. Abel will share with them. And we have a policy brief, which we also presented to KM and KM board. And I think after this, I think that should now become a public document, and any queries you have, you can always ask Abel or even ask me, and we shall be able to address. So this study's aim was actually to understand. Our main objective was to inform KM sectors on the implication and likely impact of EAC tariff liberalization to AfCFTA members. I'm saying EAC tariff liberalization to AfCFTA members because we're in a customs union and we negotiated as one block, as a EAC. And mainly we are, of course, our interest is manufactured and agriculture value add products. And these study findings, we are looking at in terms of current status, competition issues, threats, risk, opportunities, and potential. And actually potential with trading with other regional economic communities. As you know, EAC is the largest. Our manufacturers has actually focused more on the because of the geographical nearness of the East African community, and time has come now to expand more because everybody in the East African community is almost making what Kenya makes. So then the basket has become very narrow, and the limitation to expand the export market has also become that. This study looked at the effects of Kenya's manufactured products and agricultural value-added products using simulations at if EAC opened at initially 83% when we started, because we are not 83% because we are not at that time concluded. But when they concluded, and the modalities was 90, we agreed we will focus in this study about 90 and 100% tariff liberalization. 90 is the minimum now for all according agreed to the modalities, and that's why every member state and customs union must give their first immediate tariff waivers of 90% of their tariff rights for liberalization. And then it also wanted to estimate the potential for Kenya's manufactured goods among even individual AfCFTA countries, and actually try to tell us the level of competition for our goods in the domestic market, because as we are interested in exporting, there are also guys who are also interested in selling to us. Then also it had the study had a little grips on in analyzing the impact of the AfCFTA rules of origin, how the AfCFTA rules of origin are going to affect manufactured products. Right now, I think we have agreed to about 87.7, call it 88% of the rules of origin agreed, and we want to see how that is going to affect the manufactured product. And that one you see there when analysis is done in that study. And the other one objective we wanted to know is about the trade flow. So how the study was done is just trade flow analysis and simulations based on those scenarios of 83, 90, and 100%. I'm showing you how Kenya is currently trading in all these 8 regional economic communities. The communities organized by the African Union, and these ones include Central African Republic, it's called CENSAD, and there is also COMESA, and there is EAC, and there is also economic communities of African states, and we also have economic communities of Western African states, IGAD and SACU and SADC and UMA. This for Morocco. The connotation of that one, full names, I think they are in the acronyms, and the full names are in the study reports. Actually, as you can see, the character of the Kenya's trade is that it is that 62% of exports are normally for Kenyans are normally destined to international markets, and 8% of imports from the rest of the world. So intra-trade is 15% with additional 40% of the informal trade. But I want to tell you for manufacturers here that the market for manufacturers so far, based on the statistics we have, is Africa. Africa takes about 40% of the Kenya's manufactured exports, and Kenya imports about only 12% of the agriculture and anything to do with food inputs and that it's to manufacture intermediate products from the rest of Africa. But one thing is that our biggest trade from these graphs is that most important markets are still East African community, followed by commercial common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, followed by actually SADC, Southern Africa Development Community, and the members of the Southern African Customs Union. So these new markets of Western, like the markets of ECOWAS, Economic Community of Western Africa, and that one for Central Africa, and the CEMAC, are still areas which must be explored. And the Northern African UMA free trade areas, we must explore those markets, but those markets we should start also with low-hanging fruits. And even when we discuss this one with the Trade and Tax Committee, we have seen that like, for example, we want to do something with Ghana, we want to do something with Cameroon, we want to do something with the Senegal, because those ones are showing positive export change with the opening of AfCFTA at 90 and 100%. Then one of the studies what it also looked about is also the impact of AfCFTA on trade. And there were two things. Trade is being created and created because of this AfCFTA. Because when you create trade, it means that it is positive that the farms within that free trade areas are able to expand trade and realize the economies of scale and increase their exports with opening up. But at the same time, you'll find there are also sectors which there will be also what we call trade diversion. Trade diversion comes in when the companies from outside the bloc replace the companies inside the bloc. Companies outside the bloc become more efficient and therefore make these ones inside the bloc start closing up because they are not competitive enough. And then the trade is diverted to whoever is more efficient. That happens, and you find that happening in most of the sectors like agriculture and food processing and all that. And that's also well believed in the study. So it will create those two. I wanted now to give you the key findings of this study, and most of them I've covered. That is, Africa is still our important market still. Kenya's trade we found it very globally oriented with international markets. Remember, we are not only about Africa. We are well known to export even in the US, in the European Union, and other regions in the world. Nowadays, we're even exporting to China. Those ones I told you, that's what we found in terms of numbers and statistics which are in the study. And then we really found Kenya's Global Competitiveness Index is about 55 for Africa. By the way, I think there is an error there. Global competitive is 55. Global competitiveness is when you check all the factors of macro and microeconomic factors which lead to competitiveness when they are ranked together, and then you check out the average, and it finds that still that's not a very bad. That's a global, but for Africa you see it ranges between 35 and 60%. Global competitiveness environment in terms of trade costs, in terms of trade barriers, in terms of compliance costs and all that, which change. And then this study found that there is a change for Kenya's export in Africa at a 19% tariff liberalization scenario. And they have identified the countries where you can really get a positive change: South Africa, Ghana, Morocco, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Botswana, Namibia, Senegal, Tunisia. But change was negative for Serbia, Rwanda, and Madagascar, possibly because of maybe their new entrants entering those markets and replacing the Kenyan market. the industries have come up for their own on the similar goods. Remember, Kenya's export basket is very narrow, and there is need for diversification on it. And then we also found that one of the impact of this on economy is that when it will grow by 5% when you represent at 90%, and it will grow about 11.4% at 100% liberalization. I think this comes because of the competition and increased efficiencies for the companies. The study also found there are strong value chains in agro-processing, textiles, garment, footwear, rubber, and I think chemicals. And we found that generally FTA liberalization will impact positively on vehicles, food and beverages, metal and allied sectors, vegetables. And I think also I saw when I was trying to see that simulation on chemical industry, especially on fertilizers and agro-processing units, including if we can do also processed coffee and processed tea. When they are really added value, there will be a very big market to change the dynamics for Kenya. There is what I was just explaining. When it comes to the rules of origin, which is very interesting, it actually, what you have already negotiated seems to be, when they are looked generally, because we are using EAC rules of origin based on 2015, and the ones we revised in 2015, they were actually found restrictive when compared to the rules of origin of COMESA. EAC rules of origin are product specific. It's important to know that. But in the overall responsiveness to how the preferences have been used for the EAC compared to the other ones, EAC rules of origin were found more restrictive as compared to those of COMESA, as compared to those of SADC, and the ones we are even doing at the free trade areas. Luckily, mostly EAC rules of origin are very restrictive in the competitive sector. Say, for example, like even food, edible oils, we are not even exporting. You know how we also do. You can see how we are sometimes done on food and beverages, juices, and the rest in these countries, and also in when we are also want to do the dairy and other products. So the review of the EAC rules of origin is very important. But the bottom line is that the EAC rules of origin, if we are going to review them, we need to review them and align them with the wider regional rules of origin, like the ones under negotiations, AfCFTA, so that businesses start dealing with the single trade regimes on those kind of trade promotion and facilitation instruments, including the customs, including the payment system, so that we can have a seamless. Otherwise, if you start dealing with different systems for the rules of origin and interpretations, actually it's difficult, it's costly, and sometimes it even distorts trade. And the study number notes that the key challenges that restrict market entry in the AfCFTA is actually trade costs that hinder the competitiveness of Africa's, or to be saying, for example, even EAC originating products to the AfCFTA market. Finally, our study recommendations. This is highly summarized, and for the purpose of the time, one of them study recommendation is that we need to standardize and harmonize trade laws and regulation governing trade and trade promotion instruments. Here comes so many things: the rules of origin, the payment systems, the communication platforms, the digital platforms, the rules governing the platforms, harmonization and mutual recognition of the standards, and the connectivity, add infrastructure, because Africa, the bottom line for you to trade in Africa is actually logistics. It's not even actually the tariffs, it's the logistics. How do you export now in CEMAC? Or how do you go to those Central African countries where the routes and the borders and one-stop borders do not exist, and you are supposed to pass through the forest, or because you cannot airlift everything because of the cost. All those things are very important. And you can see, for example, when you filed Congo joining EAC, the first thing the president of Congo actually promised EAC was he is going to improve the infrastructure interconnectivity between EAC and Congo. That was his priority. So this priority must be done at the regional level and the national level, and it will require holistic approach to address trade-related costs, non-tariff barriers, and non-tariff measures, so that export and import procedures, documentation of the borders, and all that, so that this can make sense. Africa AfTA will only make sense if it can only increase the intra-Africa trade from the current levels of 15, so that the jobs we are exporting, when we import 85% from outside the world, can be created within Africa and cause those development of the value chains. And the study actually recommend identification of the regional value chain for intra-Africa products, including those ones where you have got fragmented production value chains in the sectors. And another thing is liberalization of trading services that support manufacturing activities, including insurance, communication, ease of movement of persons and goods, to complement trading goods. And then there is EAC industrial policy strategy. And I think since we are in a customs union and one common law, policy documents which come from the EAC should also be our priority in Kenya and also in other partner states. And I always feel sometimes there is a very right touch when it comes to implementation of this kind of policies. And for example, the industrial development strategy of the EAC was very sound, and I remember because I participated in their components sometimes earlier when I was a bit young. And you see agro-processing industries, metal manufacturing, chemicals, and fertilizers, which have all got all linked to the development of agriculture value chain, pharmaceuticals, because you can see most of these AfTA members really are importing pharmaceuticals to that. I think my time has come, but believe me, I've already finished. The last thing is we must continue engaging with the stakeholders in goods and services the way we are doing, and also as we implement AfTA free trade area. I think with that, I can conclude that is our recommendations, and Abel will share with you whatever the studies we have done, so that you can go into details for it to make sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Walter, for the in-depth presentation. You may unshare your screen. And basically, I think the key things coming out from Walter's presentation is that there are numerous opportunities within the AfCFTA. This will lead to trade creation, and we are looking forward towards supporting our manufacturers and our producers to at least advance their markets and penetrate in markets outside EAC and COMESA. There is a need for concerted efforts between the private and public sector to work on the policy environment and competitiveness. This is to ensure that we are competitive at the continental level. Then also to ensure that the risk of trade diversion is also mitigated. Ideally, we should be able to solidify the gains that we've had within EAC and COMESA, and use it as a foundation to leapfrog into the rest of Africa. Then lastly, there's a need for companies to work on their internal strategies, to work on an Africanization strategy, a market expansion strategy, just to ensure that we are able to take advantage of these negotiations and agreements that the country has been able to get into. So one of the challenges which has been identified mostly by our MSMEs and youth and women-based enterprises has been with regard to their ability to participate in cross-border trade, and also the rigorous processes with regard to trade facilitation. And we are privileged to have one of our keynote speakers today, Ms. Grace Bandera, who's the Deputy Commissioner, Marketing and Communications from the Kenya Revenue Authority. She's representing the Commissioner General, KRA, who wished to be part of this webinar but was not able to. So at this point, I'll invite Ms. Grace to give her remarks before we get into the panel discussions. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Abel, for giving me this opportunity. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking the Kenya Association of Manufacturers for inviting KRA to this timely, topical, and critical discussion. As Abel has said, my name is Grace Bandera, and I head the marketing and communication function at KRA, and I'm here to represent the Commissioner General. I am joined by my colleague, Madam Nancy Ngetich, who shall be on the panel and will provide more insights on this topic from a trade facilitation perspective. So before I read my Commissioner General's remark, may I just take this opportunity to give a few thoughts on this topical matter. So recently, I was in a seminar in West Africa about doing business in West Africa. The statistics show that there is very little business between West and East Africa. The previous speaker has alluded to the opportunity that there is in terms of trading amongst ourselves as Africa. Was still, as I observed, as I was in Ghana, I observed that simple things such as milk, cheese, eggs, among other commodities are sourced from Europe, yet we can be able to trade among ourselves. I think my greatest takeout during this session was asking the question, why can't we trade with each other? And therefore, key issues came up around tariff and non-tariff barriers, which were discussed. And I do hope that the panelists will be able to handle this in their discussion. All I could see when I was in Ghana is great opportunity. I met traders who had tried to bring processed vegetables to Ghana from Kenya, but had to stop because the cost of airlifting was just too high. Flights have to go to Europe before going to Ghana. Therefore, the issue that had been raised before about infrastructure is critical because we have no road or rail that would be cheaper transport modes between ourselves and the rest of Africa. I'm hoping that during these discussions, there'll be a good way forward because there is an opportunity to trade. However, the enablers may not be present to enable people to trade. I also visited a company that produces fresh juice in Ghana and sends it straight to Marks and Spencer's, Tesco's, and Sainsbury's within 24 hours from Ghana to the UK. And our question was, why haven't you been able to trade with Kenya? Again, costs of doing trade. And I assume that the reverse would be true for people who are trading from East Africa to West Africa. So there is the question of how then will we be able to bring this trade agreement to life in terms of the enablers that bring this trade agreement to life. So I think that's something that probably we will need to be looking at even as we move forward, even as we try to move the needle on the issues of poverty and sustainable growth for Africa. In a previous role I held at the Kenya Vision 2030, I worked with the manufacturing sector, and I know that the role of manufacturing is critical if we are going to experience growth. Of course, here at the Revenue Authority, you are one of the key sectors in terms of providing revenue for the growth of this country, and therefore, anything that would unlock the potential of the manufacturing industry is something that is critical to us. It's at the heart of our business, and therefore would really be willing to come to the table and discuss this. So those are my few thoughts before I read my Commissioner General's remarks. So allow me to read the remarks from the Commissioner General. Kenya Association of Manufacturers CEO, board members present, our panelists, subject matter experts, distinguished ladies in manufacturing, distinguished ladies in manufacturing. Global commerce and trade relies majorly on efficient movement of goods and services across borders. Traders look for faster transport and logistic processes that enable them access markets and consumers easily and with less investment cost. We also note that women contribute to about 75% of small-scale cross-border trade in East Africa. Kenya Revenue Authority, on behalf of the government of Kenya, has carried out various reforms in customs and border control function to ensure cross-border trade is faster, to ease the cost of doing business, as well as improve compliance with relevant laws and regulations. From a technology perspective, one of the things that the Revenue Authority has done is institute a new customs management system that has significantly reduced the time taken to clear goods at points of entry. The system has helped reduce time taken to clear, for example, air cargo from an average of 6 days to 48 hours, which is 2 days. This reflects a 66% improvement in clearance turnaround time, which has also reduced losses by traders and drastically reduced customer complaints. From an administrative perspective, KRA has enhanced the pre-arrival program at the port to ensure compliant clearing agents, transporters, and importers are issued with authorized economic operators certificates. This is part of our risk profiling supported by the ICMS, which is the technology platform that I had mentioned earlier, and is aimed at ensuring 70% clearance of cargo at the port as stipulated in the port charter. This will not only be of great benefit to the importers, but also the consumers as they receive their goods much faster. When we reflect on regional and cross-border trade in respect to the AfCFTA, as spoken by other speakers, this particular trade agreement is anticipated to enhance the exchange of goods and services in different sectors and consequently boost economic growth through revenue collection from the business that we do. It will also create prosperity and provide opportunities for employment for many individuals around the continent and especially the youth. What we are cognizant of is that this AfCFTA may also involve adjustments to lower import tariffs on intracontinental trade and offer a pathway to longer-term financial sustainability. I am sure that Nancy will be speaking into this later because these are some of the harmonization that will have to happen so that then we are able to operationalize the agreement. In terms of the initiatives that are going to be undertaken from our end, and I think that Abel, you had mentioned and said that women and youth find it difficult to sometimes interact with the trade facilitation from our end. And I think, first of all, we are grateful that you've given us this platform. And one of the things I would like to do going forward is continue to drive capacity building in terms of what knowledge about what needs to be done, even as we simplify our processes, even as we enhance our technology so that there are lower wait times and so that people are interacting more on the technology platform and reducing the amount of physical contact at the border. And we are hoping that technology and the capacity building will be a two-pronged approach that will help us to enhance the administrative work at the borders. I think one of the other things that I forgot to mention from a technology perspective, when you look at the investment we are making at the borders, all the borders, whether it's the border between Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya and Uganda, the use of the scanning technology to reduce wait times at the borders is something that we will continue to do because we think that this will really enhance the issues that are raised around non-tariff barriers from the consumers and our taxpayers. I also had earlier our speaker and the CEO of CAM mentioned that taxes are usually something that your members are look at when they think about their competitiveness, their ability to do trade with other countries. One of the things we are doing in this year is looking at our national tax policy and looking at how we can improve that. And of course, as had been mentioned by other speakers earlier, the issue of harmonization of taxation. So that is a discussion that is ongoing from a policy perspective. And we believe that this is one of the things that will improve the taxation framework and that will improve our competitiveness. And we welcome all members to take part in this discussion. The Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury has called for people to give feedback, and I do hope that the members within CAM and the women in manufacturing have had an opportunity to interact with this document so that then we are able to get your feedback from a public participation perspective. In terms of other areas of support that we offer, we are setting up call centers at all border points or at all points of entries, where we will have support teams, not only call centers, but support teams to be able to support traders. So this is something that we are working on as a framework to support traders. So somewhere you can reach, somewhere you can get your queries answered. So this is something we are working on. We are working on implementation of a simplified trade regime, and I think Madam Nancy will be giving greater detail on this. I had spoken into capacity building, and we hope that we can strengthen that between ourselves and CAM, so that then we are able to have sessions with your members on this area, and therefore continuous stakeholder engagement and sensitization on customs procedures is something that we are committed to doing between ourselves and yourselves, to be able to improve in terms of the knowledge that our constituents have. Let me just deviate from that a little bit and say that from a female perspective, we are really happy that today our Commissioner General chose women in tax and women in trade to come and speak to this forum, because at KRA we are committed to gender mainstreaming, and we are looking at enhancing the number of women who work in trade and in trade facilitation as well. We have a gender desk at the borders as well. So this is something that we will be communicating to all our constituents. When I was in Ghana, one of the things that caught my attention is that the AfCFTA has received proposals around gender and the place of women. So one of the things that I'm hoping is that we are interacting as a country in that perspective and pushing for that particular agenda to be introduced within the framework, so that then as women in manufacturing will be able to benefit more from this particular agreement that is being rolled out. So I think that for us, we are happy to be here. We are happy to be associated with you. We are committing to continue to support this process through both policy and administrative measures from a trade facilitation perspective. In closing, I wish you all fruitful discussions, and I would like to just mention a quote here from a female perspective that says that, excuse me for a moment, please. We need women at all levels to change the dynamic, reshape the conversation, to make sure women's voices are heard and heeded, not overlooked and ignored. So this platform really, in terms of women in manufacturing, is really critical. We do hope that you will engage with us at a deep level in terms of KRA as from a trade facilitation perspective. We do hope that we will be able to forge relationships that will enable all the women in manufacturing to be able to live out the objectives that they've set out within their businesses. So thank you very much, and I wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you, Grace, for the warm remarks and also for the commitment from KRA to continue supporting the manufacturing sector with regard to trade facilitation and also creating a good policy environment for manufacturers to thrive. I think specifically with your remark around the trade policy, around the tax policy, as Kenya Association of Manufacturers will be collecting views from the members and sharing back to you for review. So to set the ball rolling and maybe to give an insight into the participation of women and gender mainstreaming in trade and cross-border trade, I would like to invite our first speaker, within the panelists. Her name is Rose Rono. She's the Senior Gender and Tax Advisor at UNECA, and she'll be able to give an insight into what UNECA is doing specifically with regard to gender mainstreaming and how they could possibly support SMEs, women, and youth enterprises to participate within the AfCFTA. So welcome, Madam Rose Rono.
Thank you so much, Abel. Just to correct that, I'm a Senior Gender and Trade Advisor with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. And I'm happy to be here today. The issue of women economic empowerment, especially under the CFTA, is an area that I'm very passionate about. And I'm just going to be speaking to you about the role that the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa is playing specifically on ensuring effective implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area in African countries. And before I go into that, we recognize the challenges that women experience in the continent in terms of integrating into economic opportunities, such as the ones that are presented by this very new agreement. And some of those challenges include the access to finance. Some of them include the lack of capacity or even awareness of lack of information of the availability of such opportunities that are there within this agreement. We also have challenges which are cultural, historically, that has led to unequal participation of women in such opportunities that are presented to them. So you find that there is an imbalance in all sectors, not only manufacturing, but you find that there's an imbalance in terms of representation. And where there's representation, you find that representation at the very low levels of the value chain, not at senior levels. And I'm happy with what Grace has said, that we have organizations, even government entities are embracing gender mainstreaming and are embracing, an approach of gender responsiveness, realizing that not all genders, have the equal opportunities by virtue of either historical issues, cultural issues. So gender is a really important aspect of this, and the role of United Nations Economic Commission for Africa has been to work with the different governments who are party to this agreement to assist in terms of, or provide technical assistance in terms of gender mainstreaming those national strategies. For example, Kenya has been working on its national strategy, and I believe last month a review was done, a technical review was done, sponsored by United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. And we looked at Kenya's strategy on the basis of involvement of women, and we were able to mainstream the same. Our role also does not only include participation and mainstreaming, but also generating research and just looking at the specific sectors where women are represented, agriculture, manufacturing, and researching in terms of what is their level of participation, what are the barriers that they have in terms of participating. And our really interest has been especially with the informal cross-border traders, who 75% of them are women. So they have unique concerns which may not have been addressed in the negotiation of the agreement, but now there is a protocol that has been agreed upon, which is the protocol for women and youth, and that protocol now we have been having dialogues with counterpart entities such as United Nations Development, UNDP, to just seek to hear from women from different countries what they feel would be, included in that particular protocol. And in September, there will be a conference in Dar es Salaam to be able to finalize those discussions. So that's also what we are doing. In terms of mainstreaming strategies, we have mainstreamed a couple of them. We've done for Kenya, South Sudan is ongoing, Botswana, Eswatini, Somalia, and Sudan. And we're looking at doing that across, we're looking at doing the mainstreaming across most of the African countries and providing that technical support, training government officials, training also the private sector, so that when they're doing the engagements or when government is engaging the private sector, they know the entry levels, the questions to ask to ensure that there's mainstreaming of those national strategies. We also facilitate dialogue on gender issues, and we've held quite a number of meetings specifically on the CFTA to listen to women, to find out what their issues are, and propose and advocate for policy recommendations which can be able to ensure equal participation of women. Training also, we're providing training with the low levels of awareness of this agreement, especially for women. One of the entry points in ensuring that women can be able to participate would be training them on what this agreement is about, the opportunities that it prevents, what has been agreed in terms of the rules of origin, so that they can be able to prepare themselves, prepare the businesses to be able to trade under these agreements. Additionally, I just want to also talk about access to finance, which is a really big issue when it comes to women, because traditionally banks would, lend against collateral, for example, land. And you find in most African countries, not only Kenya, you find that land is held in the name of a male person in society. So we're looking also at, researching and seeing what innovative, financial models can be implemented so that, or can be embraced by financial institutions, so that we have opportunity, financial, women can be able to have financial, they can be able to access finance, which can be able to help them to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. So I think I just wanted to talk about that. In terms of, I think Abel had mentioned that maybe I can speak to the program, how UNECA can be able to work together with the manufacturing program, Women in Manufacturing program with CAM. I think we have been involving CAM itself directly through representatives that have been coming for the dialogues that we have been calling upon. I think there could be now deeper involvement in terms of maybe requests coming from your end in relating to the areas that we are in, and that is a capacity building, research, dialogue, maybe together with government, and possibly just ensuring that we provide you the right information. We find out what challenges women in manufacturing have, and we can be able to advocate, help you to advocate. We can be able to bring you together with government and dialogue and come up with solutions for some of the challenges that women in manufacturing have. So unfortunately, I didn't have a long time. I have to rush to another meeting. That's why I could not be able to speak for long, but I'd like to just thank you for the opportunity for to tell you about what we are doing as UNECA. We continue to engage the private sector. The private sector is really important to us, and we look forward to continued collaboration. Thank you, Caleb, for the invitation. Abel, for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rose. It's always a pleasure to have you around. And for sure, the Women in Manufacturing Network will be reaching out to you to seek how you could collaborate to ensure that we have women enterprises participating actively within the African Continental Free Trade Area. So right now, I would like to invite Mr. Josiah Rotich. Rotich has been one of the critical negotiators around the AfCFTA, not just the AfCFTA, but all the other trade agreements that Kenya has entered into. And I would like Rotich to give us a status update on where we are on AfCFTA and when exactly these manufacturers will be able to export using the trade instruments which have been agreed upon within the AfCFTA. So Bwana Rotich, karibu. Rotich, can you be able to hear us? So maybe before Rotich sorts out his audio issues, I would like to invite the KRA Deputy Commissioner, Policy and International Affairs, Ms. Nancy Ngetich. She'll give us an insight into trade facilitation, whether KRA is...
Abel.
Oh, Rotich, yeah?
Abel, I'm ready.
Okay, please proceed.
Just give me 1 second. I put on my camera if you want to see me.
Okay. I'll hold the part, passing the baton to KRA.
I just one second.
Yeah, in the meantime, keep your questions coming in through the question and answer function on the Zoom platform, also through the chat platform, and we'll be able to respond to those questions during the question and answer session. Rotich, the floor is yours.
Abel, can I?
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abel and the team for this. I'm sorry I'm not able to switch on my camera. I think the network here is extremely weak. Yeah? But I should be able to speak. Now I want to start my comments by first of all appreciating what has been presented by my other colleagues, particularly the presentation by Walter Kamau on that particular study. I think it is quite an eye opener, and I think that is where the private sector needs to maybe look at it further. And I think one of the things that actually needs to come out in a stronger manner is what exactly do we want to do? Yes, there is this agreement. Yes, there are opportunities. What is it that we need to do? I normally call it a parallel agenda. Here, back at home, what exactly can we do so that we can benefit from this particular framework? Because there is a lot of opportunity in West Africa, in Central Africa, where we don't appear at all. It's almost that, I mean, we are almost absent in that market. I thought that should be given a lot of focus. Now, in terms of where we are, I will start with the signing. First of all, just to also add what Walter said in terms of how many countries have signed already. Out of the 55, 54 countries have signed. There's only one country that is still remaining to sign this particular agreement for reasons which nobody understands. That is Eritrea. In terms of ratification, we currently have about 43 ratifications. The last time I had a count, there were 43 countries that have already ratified and deposited the instruments of ratification. Now, the most important thing now is about the trade, the tariff offers, or rather the tariff schedules. For us to trade under this particular framework, we ought to have the tariff liberalization schedules. So out of the 55 countries in Africa, we have got 46 tariff offers that have already been tabled at the AfCFTA. But out of that 30 of them has been verified and technically approved by the Secretariat that they qualify under the modalities. But also in terms of adoption by the ministers, all the 30 of already have been adopted by the ministers during the last meeting that took place last week. That's the Council of Ministers that took place last week, including the EAC one. The EAC one, actually, we were able to push and it was there was a challenge initially in terms of
Rotich, we've lost you.
Hello?
Yeah, we cannot hear you. Please proceed.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. So what I was saying, in terms of the EEC, initially there was a challenge in terms of not accepting actually, but the EEC as a community, we had a little bit of challenge. After the alignment to the HS 2022, EEC decided to revise However, EEC decided to align their offer to the 2022 hedges. In that alignment now, we missed about 6 tariff lines. So now that 90% cutoff, we actually came below it, and we were meant to look at the 6 tariff lines so that we can join the 90%. But during the discussion, we actually agreed that let us just present the 2017 version, let it be adopted by the ministers, and then we come back and do the adjustment after our offer has been adopted, which actually was adopted. So the 30 tariff offers which were adopted, EEC is one of them. And that is actually what is going now to allow us to do the trade. That is about the tariff offer. So in other words, there are 30 countries that are not countries, but there are 30 offers that actually can start the trade now. And the EEC, I said, is one of them. And a number of other countries in the ECOWAS, the countries in the Central African region, that is CEMAC, and other few individual countries also were able to submit their offers, which actually form the 30 countries. We are going to do the trade right now. We are able to access a number of West African countries and Central African countries, where at the moment you realize that was mentioned by one of our colleagues. So that is about the trading services, because that is another area where EEC offer has also been adopted alongside a number of others that were adopted by the minister. So
Rotich, we've lost you again.
What do you mean by it? You lost me again?
Yeah.
Can you hear now?
Yes, I can hear now. Please proceed.
Okay, I was saying in the rules of origin, which is another very critical component of an FTA, we have agreed on 88%, and I think that was mentioned by Kamau. Now, what we mean by 88% is that out of all the tariff, because these rules of origin are product specific. So out of all the products that we have designed rules, we have agreed on 88%. So you can calculate the number of tariff lines that we can do the trade. Actually, this covers almost about 80%, or rather more than 80% of the intra-African trade. We are going to do it now. Now, that is not to say that we cannot do the trade because we still have outstanding matters. No, there is a transitional clause which is saying that we can do the trade on the basis of the rules of origin that have already been agreed. What has not been agreed can still we can still continue negotiations until we complete, but the trade can continue with the already agreed rules of origin. We have also agreed on, or rather finalized on the operation manual, and this one was also adopted by the last Council of Ministers, which took place about a week ago. So what is still outstanding in the 12% that is still remaining in the rules of origin are in the areas of we have got sugar, which is still outstanding, particularly 1702. There is a lot of heated debate on this. There are countries that are saying we need to protect the sugar industry that we have in Africa. And other countries like Kenya and some countries, Mauritius, they are saying, but we need flexibility on certain areas where we don't have that particular sugar in Africa. For instance, if we are doing confectionery, you will need sugar for industrial use. And sugar for industrial use, normally we don't have a lot of it in the continent. So this is where Kenya is seeking for flexibility. On 1702 other sugars, Kenya is also seeking flexibility, but Kenya, I think, with other countries were able to say, okay, fine, this is not one of those sugars that we always see. So we can actually be flexible. And there was a little bit of flexibility in agreeing to move towards maybe allowing 60% of raw material from outside the continent for further processing. But on 1704, Kenya was really strong on this. But of course, when we consulted with the private sector is already showing flexibility, because there was a lot of pressure also for to move in the others. So I think this is one of those things that will be finally concluded in our next meeting of the senior officials, the PSS meeting. But I take the point that Kenya is also showing a little bit of flexibility on this, but we will not just simply go and say we have agreed. We need to use this particular aspect to gain on where countries were pushing for automatic movement from one rule to another one without any review. So this is what we were saying. We will actually use this flexibility to say, okay, fine, we are going to be flexible on this, but the issue of automatic movement, we will not agree on that. So we actually use it to buy something else. That is the strategy that we seems to be adopting now on tobacco, which is also another outstanding matter. It was already agreed at the technical level and also at the committee level. But when it comes to the senior officials now, problems started coming in. Even at the ministerial level, it was so emotive. But the beauty about this is that there were two options. But the first option, nobody was disputing it. And that particular first option is where Kenya has an interest. So we're just quiet to say, whatever you do with the other option, we should not have a big problem, so long as the option that has a Kenyan interest, we should not touch. That is the one that we were saying, as much as you want to use the raw material, the raw tobacco from within Africa, you should be allowed to bring about 30% from outside the continent for particularly planting the oriental tobacco. So that particular option, nobody had a problem with it. And that is why we were saying, okay, yeah, we can be quiet so long as that particular option is not tampered with. Under the rules of origin, again, we have got a matter that is also becoming extremely emotive. That is the SEZ. How do we deal with products that are coming from outside or rather within the special economic zones? In the agreement itself, it is very clear that the products that are coming from the special economic zones must benefit from the preferential terms, so long as those products meet two conditions. One condition is the rules of origin, like any other product. And the second condition is now regulations that were meant to be developed by the ministers. So you realize in this particular case, because they are in a special dispensation, so they are also being subjected to two conditions, unlike the products from outside the zone, which are being subjected to only one condition, which is the rules of origin. So in this case, what we were supposed to be doing is to develop the regulations. But you realize, and a few meetings actually have taken place. There was a study that was done, and also a document that was generated in terms of now drafting the regulations. But when the senior officials met, and also even the committee level met to the ministers level, there seems to be a misunderstanding. And this is an area where I think the ministers were not properly guided, because people are still discussing about, do we allow products from special economic zones to benefit from from the preferential trade, which is actually not the question. That question has been answered already by the agreement. The question that we should be asking ourselves is, how are the regulations appearing so that these regulations are the ones to discipline the trade within the special economic zones. But you see, the debate now is actually completely off the mark. So this particular matter was sent back to the senior officials, but I thought the ministers were not properly guided in terms of the discussion. So in that case, as Kenya now, we have no problem with products from special economic zones benefiting from the CFTA, because already it is in the agreement. We also don't have a problem in terms of subjecting them to two conditions, rules of origin and the regulations. What Kenya should be actually focusing on right now is to say how are these regulations supposed to appear? I mean, in terms of the detail, the content of the regulation, so that it can discipline this particular trade within the special economic zone. And I know those who are in the zones and those who are outside the zone, they have got different things to say about it. In fact, yesterday, I'm aware there are fights even within the private sector. Yesterday, I received an instruction to look at a letter that was written by KM, the people who are in the edible oil. Those who are outside the zone are already accusing, for lack of a better word, those who are within the zone for doing business that is not fair to the rest. And they want some bit of control. In a way, I don't want to give the details of that particular. So you already see that there's a lot of push and pull on people who are within and those who are outside the zone, the manufacturers in particular. So what I'm trying to say is that the regulations are supposed to be to deal with this particular kind of things. So this is another outstanding matter which actually is going to take a little bit of time, particularly on the basis of the fact that there seems to be misunderstanding in terms of what exactly are we supposed to be dealing with in this particular aspect. I'm sorry I've taken long, but I thought this is one matter that is outstanding and it may actually cause a little bit of disruption of trade for those who are producing within the special economic zone. What I wanted to say again about this particular trade is that the Kenyan law is also not so good on this particular matter. If you look at the SEZ law, it actually does not allow any company that is within the zone to even sell within the country without paying duty, because these zones actually are considered to be customs control. If it is a customs control, you know that what's up, that is already like a foreign country. So even our Kenyan law on SEZ, I think we need also to maybe look at it and say, what are we asking the other countries to do? Are we doing the same thing? Or we are asking them to do something that we are not even doing to our own companies? So I think that is one matter that I think also we need to look at it so that we are consistent in what we are asking. Now, those are the very critical issues that are still outstanding, but there are other issues that I think I can just mention briefly that we have also, that we are supposed to do. We are supposed to act on some things, but we have already acted. The dispute settlement, we were supposed to submit names for the people who were going to be part of the list of the panelists, so that in case there is a dispute, there is a panel, they will always pick people from that particular list. So we have submitted 2 names already as it was required. But now when it comes to the appellate body, we were supposed to submit 1 name. We have already put an advert. Some 2 days ago, there's an advert already for whoever is interested. You can apply. We need to submit only 1 name, but there is already an advert that is calling for expression of interest for those who are interested. Moving very quickly to the other issues now under the phase 2, the trade in the investment, the policy issues. I mean the investment protocol. We also have got a competition policy protocol. We have got e-commerce protocol. We have got IP protocol, and we also have got the protocol on women and youth in trade, which was not actually part of the initial mandate, but it was realized that you cannot complete the trade agenda in Africa without necessarily bringing in the women and youth in a special manner. So all these protocols that I'm talking about, some of them have already been drafted, like the competition, investment have been drafted. The IPR protocol, we are actually forming it now. Forming it, I mean, we are collecting views in terms of how do you want this protocol to look like. And that is what we are right now doing. In terms of the women in business, women and youth in business, I don't want to say much because I think Ross did it, but I just wanted to say that we are also in the process of forming what exactly do you want this protocol to capture. And this is one area that I think we cannot fail to mention that particular aspect is already ongoing, and we are putting a lot of attention as a ministry. Now, that is about where we are, and that is about the outstanding matters in the rules of origin and in the tariff offers, in the trading services, and in all the other matters. But there are other questions that we are asking ourselves: are we ready to trade? I think I can simply say that Kenya is ready to trade. EAC is ready to trade because we already have our offer ready and adopted by the Council of Ministers. Because if you don't have your offer ready, you cannot trade, because these are reciprocal business. If you have no offer on yourself, you cannot even export to countries that have already opened up, because you have nothing. So it is it's a kind of it for that. So as much as we want to export, we cannot receive products from countries that have already finalized on their tariff offers. So what I can say in terms of the readiness, we are ready. We have got our offers ready. We have got even our trading services offers ready. The only thing that I think we could be asking ourselves is in terms of the trade instruments. And I think my sister from KRA will say something more. But what I simply want to say, the trade instruments that are very critical in this case is the rules of origin certificate. And the rules of origin certificate, there was already a template which was adopted at the highest level. There were also other instruments that are used actually in the rules of origin, the supplier declaration and the origin declaration. Even those ones were already adopted. What was only remaining is the printing. And I think our colleagues from KRA will be able to tell us exactly where they are. But I believe this is not a matter that can stop the trade, because it cannot take a long time to print. So simply you say we are ready, but we are in the process of printing. But I think the actual status we can get from our KRA colleagues. Maybe as I conclude, is when is the trade going to start? The trade is going to start. I can simply say the trade has started. It is only that we are waiting for one country to send a consignment. Because the moment the ministers adopted the tariff offers, what exactly are you still waiting for? It's a matter of loading and ship. And of course, those trading instruments should be ready to accompany your consignments. So I will actually say that the trade has started. It's only that we are waiting for the actual consignment to go. In terms of the launching of the trade, actually the summit directed that the trade should have started January 2021, but the actual selling and buying is the one that we are still talking about. It has not started. And this is the one that the moment the ministers adopted the offers, we actually I don't even actually think that we need to wait for the summit to give a go-ahead, because summit already gave a go-ahead in 2021. It was only the tariff offers that were delaying and the rules of origin that were delaying. And these are the ones that we are saying they have already been adopted. And it's a matter of now, can we move on? Basically, I mean, briefly about the readiness of the country again, I want to say that we have come up with a strategy. What we call the AfCFTA strategy. That strategy has been developed with the involvement of all the stakeholders. We are actually at the tail end of it. The launch is going to take place. By the way, it is going to take place tomorrow. The launch will take place tomorrow for that particular strategy in terms of how do we access these particular markets now, given that we have been having markets all along, AGOA market, EU market, COMESA market, but we have not been able to utilize them as much. Now, this particular strategy was actually designed to, like, can we do something more different? and more than what we used to do, so that we can actually benefit from this particular market opportunity. So this strategy is the one that is going to allow us to access these markets now that we are saying there's a lot of market in West Africa, in Central Africa, and sort of. So in that case, we actually need now to two things. We need to continue sensitizing the stakeholders, and particularly those who are interested in exporting. And of course, those also who are doing the what we call the regulated frameworks, and the regulators, and anybody else who is an interested party in this particular matter, we actually need to roll out sensitization program in a serious manner, and also training now. Apart from sensitizing them, we need to train those who are doing like the trade in goods about the rules of origin. What are the rules of origin? Apart from telling them that there is market, you need to train them on the availability of the rules of origin, how they are, and how they can be utilized. So I think that is an agenda that we all need to roll out, all of us. It is an agenda for all of us. It is not only the State Department for Trade or KM or KRA. It should be a state, a matter that all the Kenyans, wherever you are, needs to be part of. Chair, I want to, let me stop there, Chair. If there is anything that I did not mention, you can always seek for further clarification. I'm available for that. Sorry, colleagues, for taking a little bit of time, but I think I needed to say all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bwana Rotich. For sure, I think we'll address any questions that will be coming directly to the State Department for Trade to you. So at this point, let me invite KRA, so Ms. Nancy Ngetich, the Deputy Commissioner for International Trade, to give us an insight into trade facilitation and how KRA is ready to support cross-border trade, at least with the countries that we are not currently trading with, specifically the countries outside EAC and COMESA. So welcome, Madam Nancy.
Thank you, Abel. And once again, good morning, everyone. And for my role, I think it has really been simplified after the submission by my colleague Grace on CG's statement. We've actually covered the policy perspective, so I will not belabor on that. I will straight away just go to like the operational aspect of KRA, which is what what will form the link then between the policy and the actual operationalization of the AfCFTA once we start trade. So we've listened to Mr. Rotich from Trade, and I think that is where I would actually pick from, that after now we've confirmed that the tariff have met the threshold. Our schedule is one of those that have been adopted. So then how do we progress? So for KRA, we actually play two critical roles. One, of course, we are part of the major stakeholder in terms of having these documentations done and even part of the negotiations. So for that, we are still on. We always team up with the trade and other stakeholders when needed, especially when we are doing the negotiations for the rules of origin and also for the tariff offers. So that we have representation from KRA, and it's ongoing as accordingly. Now, the other part, of course, is the actual trade itself. So again, when we talk of the actual trade for KRA, it's twofold. And I think at this point, I want to first start with the documentation, which is actually a concern. And for very good reasons, then that if tomorrow we say we are commencing the first shipment, how ready is KRA in terms of documentation? So KRA is the competent authority that issues the certificate of the origin, which is a key document that then would determine that these goods indeed qualify for the rules of origin criteria and therefore should be accorded preferential treatment. So to that end, we want to confirm that we have gotten the requisite approvals. And as Mr. Rotich said, the template had already been provided at the secretariat level and approved. So we've already gotten all the approvals required. The only remaining thing is publishing, which is just a process that then is done like in less than 5 days or so. So we are very ready with that document, because that is the only document that is more or less accountable and has to be issued by KRA. The other two documents that Mr. Rotich also alluded to, that is the origin declaration and the supplier and exporter declaration, are documents that then will be available in our website and even the AU website for members or the suppliers or the exporter to be able to, print them and submit as part of the required documentation for processing for that preferential treatment. So in terms of documentation, we are ready, and we will be able to take off when required. Now, the other fold is in terms of trade facilitation itself. So I think at this point, what would be very important to note, of course, is that yes, AfCFTA is coming into force, but again, by and large, AfCFTA is just one of the agreement that then KRA will be implementing alongside the other agreements we've been implementing, following the country accession into that agreement. So in terms of the processes of facilitation, and actually when you look at the annex on trade facilitation under the Trade in Goods Protocol, you will realize that all those aspects that have been enumerated are already what we are using. So for instance, of course, we know the key objective of trade facilitation, why it's been annexed there, to ensure that there's ease of movement of goods, expedited, and as little barriers as possible when it comes to customs. So to that end, if you look at the items that we are expected to put in place, indeed all of them are in place, courtesy of these other trade agreements we are already running with, like when it comes to COMESA, when it even comes to EAC itself, and even when it comes to the ordinary import and export of goods. So when we talk, for instance, maybe just to mention a few, of course, we are expected to ensure, there is requirements for expedited clearance. KRA has put in place quite a number of mechanisms for that. My colleague, as part of the policy, she alluded to pre-arrival clearance. And for those of us who saw even the amendments that were sent to the other day by the heads of state in the EAC summit, one of the amendments which was actually proposed by Kenya was to require the manifest to be uploaded, either wheels up if it's a flight, or at the time of departure for the vessel if it's by sea, and of course the same would appear for land. So already that is a big step towards ensuring that the pre-arrival clearance, which is expected to be a factor of expediting movement of goods, is done, is already in place. We have the facilitative or AEOs, which then means that where the suppliers or exporters require that they be enrolled for that fast-track clearance, where the goods are not subjected to any verification unless there is very highlights in terms of risks management, then they could be able to join and they'll be able to be facilitated. The other aspect that we will also call for, is like the requirement for advanced ruling, where we are able to give a ruling, whether is it in tariff or origin of goods. This is what already is even in our customs law regionally. So once there's that requirement, then we should be able to facilitate, even in terms of shipments by air, which is expensive and required to be facilitated. That will be in place. So the confidence we want to give to the association is that the parameters that KRA has already put in place, which I believe most of us will agree with us are really working, would be the same ones that will be deployed when it comes to AfCFTA. And definitely where there's room for improvement, definitely that's something also that would want to take up and ensure it happens. Now, I know the other issue that is also quite an issue of concern, and Mr. Rotich also alluded to it, is the issue of capacity building. Yes, AfCFTA is new, and therefore it requires a lot of capacity building. And this also KRA has taken it up. Currently, even at TSC level first, is that we've done the trainings. Actually, what TSC has done is it has facilitated the train of trainers, because then it might not be easy to reach each and every officers and all the stakeholders that are involved. So then what has been done is there is a team that has been picked in the different regions of the different partner states. So like for Kenya, we are looking at Mombasa, we are looking at Jomo Kenyatta, we are looking at borders, the busy ones like Namanga, like Malaba. So teams are being trained, and they'll be the ones now who will be able then to be able to cascade it down to the other officers. We've also seen assistance from WCO, the master trainer, again, with the buyers for AfCFTA. So the kind of instruments in terms of manuals and documentations are what now we are rolling out, and we are able now to prepare ourselves. But I think also very important, and which is what the other speakers have said, is the stakeholder engagement, that when it comes to this trade, then definitely, even when KRA alone is ready and the other stakeholder is not ready, then there might be, slow trade, or, we are not able to facilitate as would be expected. So we've done a lot of stakeholder engagements, and they are still ongoing, just to ensure that we are on the same page and we are able to move when required. And I think also, as Mr. Rotich alluded, we are members to the National Implementation Committee. We are also members to the HADO Committee on the guided trade, which Kenya has been picked to pilot. So indeed, we are very much, alive and ready to facilitate the trade once it starts. Now, the other issue, of course, which is also the key part of this webinar, was, the buyers for women in manufacturing. So I think my earlier statement, I would want to still repeat that even as we come to the AfCFTA, we would still accord the service delivery we have for the other kind of clearances that we have. So currently, even before AfCFTA, we know at national level, we've done a lot for the women and the small and micro enterprises. We have come up with the KEBS, we've come up with the Ministry of Transport, and even the trade, to ensure that the consolidated framework was able to be implemented. So consolidated framework basically means that we will find ourselves with a group of people who might not be able to move a container on their own. Definitely, for obvious reasons, maybe the market they are targeting is still small, or the nature of goods maybe are perishable, so you might not want to shift a lot at the same time. So this framework then definitely again will be rolled out to benefit the women and the small enterprises when we go to AfCFTA. If you look at KRA modes of payment for taxes, currently we do all the way up to M-Pesa as one of the online payments. So clearly then it means even wherever you are, so long as you can access M-Pesa, be it whichever remote border, then you will be able to still pay your taxes or any fees and levies that KRA is collecting without so much hassle of requiring to be in a bank and or how else would I want to pay? At TSC level, I'm sure we are aware as CAM that we do simplified trade regime, which then again modalities would have to be reviewed on how to have the same benefits now that this new trade agreement is coming in place. And this then ensures, for instance, that if you are moving goods within the EAC borders, then if they are overvalued less than 2,000 USD, then you don't need to go for the ordinary certificate of origin, but there's a simplified form that you fill at the border and you're able to be facilitated. So these are the things now we are also looking at, and trying to ensure that once the trade is commenced, then definitely we should be in a position to ensure that the same is rolled out and to benefit. And maybe also what I would want to mention, and my colleague Grace mentioned under CG's speech, is that the systems we have in place, and I know CAM is also aware, we've talked of ICMS for so long. ICMS now is fully rolled out. In fact, we have very little transactions in Simba. And one of the key benefits we've seen ICMS has brought is the ability to integrate. So currently under EAC, we are very well integrated with the other regional partner states. And then it means for AfCFTA, this is something then that would be extended. And with that integration again, then the question would be for systems availability or how to adopt the systems to fit. That should not be a challenge, because with the integration and the single window through Trade, then even permits and all that will find a way of being forwarded to us through Trade. So I think, Abel, those are the key highlights I would want to also give from KRA, unless they are very specific questions. And I've just narrowed down to operations, because I think really the policy issues have been well dealt by the previous speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. It's always a pleasure to have KRA. And we do appreciate at least the support that you've been extending to the manufacturing sector, and the support that you are also supporting on cross-border trade, which is, I think, what the manufacturers are looking forward to within the AfCFTA regime. So I would request the panelists to address any questions, to respond to any questions that have been raised directly to them on the question and answer chat function. Then I'll also request the attendees to kindly allow us to extend this webinar by about 20 to 25 minutes so that we can be done with the program for the day, and also give ample time for an interactive question and answer session. So at this point, let me welcome Ms. Mary Ngechu, who's the Women in Manufacturing Network chairperson at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, to give her remarks around the participation of women-led enterprises within the AfCFTA.
So thank you, and thank you all the panelists for the insights that you have given our women. And I want to say in the call today is not just women in manufacturing, because we have, I think, all the manufacturers around, because the program for women in manufacturing, we deal with women who are entrepreneurs, and we also deal with women who are working in manufacturing industries. So we have a combination of industries that are supporting the initiative of women, that they're employing women, and we have the women entrepreneurs. Today, I was supposed to talk about the challenges that as women entrepreneurs we are facing, and it is insightful from all the other speakers about the challenges and what has been done across the board. And I will talk about a few challenges as women. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have, or the women are facing, is simply just understanding the free Africa continental trade, understanding the whole concept of what we have talked about, because the information is there, but we do not have a mechanism that is channeling that information to the women. We do not have a simplified way for the women to consume that information, considering that most women who are doing trade, most of them are small, they are micro, and there's already a barrier in understanding policies. In what we are trying to do at the Women in Manufacturing program is to literally simplify that, so that we're able to engage the women and pass that information. The other thing that I would maybe also talk about, we have talked about the rule of origin, and we have explained all what has been put together in terms of policy, so that we can be able to access the rule of origin. Most women, you realize that they don't even understand what is required in terms to meet the criteria of the rule of origin, whether it is in input, and more so also in the documentation. How do you prepare yourself so that you can be able to get the required documentation or the approvals from KRA, so that you meet that criteria of the rule of origin? I think these are some of the challenges that the women are getting in understanding the CFTA. Also the area of logistics. Earlier, Tobias talked about the challenges that we have in interconnectivity of the different countries or the different market that we want to access, whether it is through road, whether it is through rail, air, even communication. How are we able to simply just even have communication across in terms of cost and in terms of also documentation? If I want to send my goods to Ghana, what exactly are those documentations that I require to do? How do I go about it? How do I even understand the local requirements of Ghana or West Africa across that. Those are the challenges, and they are challenges that we are hoping that we're able to address also at the Women in Manufacturing program. The other specific challenges that maybe women are facing would be in terms of product standards. And in product standards, we would discuss specific as in what is required, the requirement of certification through the Kenya Bureau of Standards. We have the Kenya Bureau of Standards. We are pushing now in harmonizing the standards across Africa. I think there are several products that through the Africa Continental Free Trade have been harmonized, or the trades have been agreed. How do we get that information on what is required in a product specification, including the labeling, including the packaging specification that may be different countries or different markets would require? How do we, also the language barrier? You realize, I give an example, if I am producing in Kenya and my labeling is in English, and I'm sending maybe to a country that the labeling or they understand French, I need to change my labeling specifically maybe for that country to be able to understand that. The other area is transaction, and we've talked about the tool of trade. Imagine when I sell my product as a woman, I need to get paid. How do I go about that, completing that transaction, do the payment? Changing of currency. I was in a forum that was in Uganda last week, and one of the biggest challenges that the women talked about is currency. They do not even have a clear understanding of even how to change the currencies from Kenya to Tanzania shilling to Rwanda francs, like that. That is a very specific barrier that the women will face even before they embark on the trade. Assurance over that transaction. How do we get assurance that if I send my goods to across borders, I will be paid? A lot of maybe areas you find that maybe it's required that you send the products and then you'll be paid, because even the other buyer, they want to have surety of the quality of what they are buying. Those are some of the challenges that you'd get in that. Other challenges will come in the normal common challenges that we talk about: access to finance, access to business development services, access to technical capacity, and cost of production. Technical capacity is because you realize that as women, when we are developing our product, technically our culture, women do not take the technical courses. And I know we have a drive now where we are pushing that girls are able to engage and get into the STEM subjects. So technical capacity, how can we be able to bridge that gap in that? Some of the recommendation that maybe we've been looking at and we've been communicating at the Women in Manufacturing product program, especially in terms of accessing the information, is maybe we are looking into how do we consolidate all that information, come up with a portal that has simplified information that women can be able to consume that. I'm happy that UNECA is also saying that we can be able to collaborate with them in such conferences and forums to pass that information, because access to information is a serious barrier, especially to the small and the micro enterprises, because they could have what it takes to export, but because they don't have information or they do not understand the policies, how do we break that down and simplify that so that they can be able to consume that? We have also talked about access to finance through the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. How can we be able to work with the finance institution and the regulators? I was having a conversation with some financiers, and I think the biggest problem that we are having is not necessarily the finances. The access barrier is either how the financiers are regulated, that there are ways that they are not able to, they can't be able to give the finances to the women because of the cultural barriers, and especially the issue of collateral. The women also are not ready in terms of finance literacy. And finance literacy needs to be specific for different sectors, because different sectors in manufacturing, I think what maybe an agro-processor would require is completely different from what maybe a manufacturing industry in another sector require, in terms of documentation, how you you project your markets, how you project your numbers. So being specific in terms of the capacity building that we give the women, so that they are specific to the needs of the women. Technical capacity, and I know the government has done quite a few across the region. There's no country that doesn't have a center of excellence where they are capacity building or giving technical assistance to small and medium enterprises, where is the scope most of the women are in. But in research and development of product, I think there's need for a deliberate effort in research and development, especially for the women and the small and the micro enterprises, so that they can be able to come up with products that are competitive, products that meet the standards that are required, and be able to tap into the opportunities of the free Africa continental trade. Then market access. We need to have ways of sharing information. Opportunities are there and they are documented. The governments will have the opportunities, but do the women understand these opportunities? Do they even have a way that they can be able to tap into that access market opportunities that are there? Are we able to even maybe come up with different exposure forums that we're able to expose our women into different markets? And some of the barriers that come with different markets is even understanding the culture of different markets, because I may make a product that is very good for the Kenyan market, but it could be completely different in terms of culture or acceptance by the market across the borders. I think those are some of the challenges that we need to address. The production cost. How can we be able to come up with incentives that are specific to women to be able to help them to mitigate the production cost? There are general incentives that we look into, especially in the manufacturing industries, but there are those specific needs that are required for women that we should be able to come up with incentives that we can be able to help with that. My closing remark would be, I'm encouraging the women entrepreneurs who are in this forum to look for other women so that we can be able to incorporate them and bring them into forums like the KAM, where we can be able to capacity build them so that their products are ready. We have different forums with our stakeholders, different stakeholders. We engage the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Then we're able to walk the journey of the certifications with the women so that they can be able to certify and get the compliance of what is required for their products. The other manufacturers who are also working with women, we are also encouraging them that they be able to grow the ladder, with the women on the ladder. Because one of the biggest problem, and I think there was a lady from KRA who talked about it, is representation. How do we have women entrepreneurs in the representation so that they're on the table when the decisions are made? We do not have policies that come out to be very gender neutral, but they are sensitive to the requirements of women. Simple things like even how facilities are put up together. They become challenges when you're in a facility that was not put through with the thought of the women who are working there, or the women, or even college institutions and courses that are gender neutral. So we need to come up and build policies that are gender sensitive so that we can be able to grow our women. There's the lady from UNECA, Rose Rono, talked well about the strategies that have been put together. How are we able to understand or have our women understand the strategies that are there from our national, from our regional, and also from the Africa market, so that they can look into opportunity, how it is that they can be able to plug in. We have also today talked about the special economic zone and the benefits that would come with that. There are also challenges that are there. But is it possible that we are able to come up with government incentives, that we are able to come up with things like common use facilities that we can be able to plug in our women, so that where they don't have capacity in terms of machinery, in terms of research and development and technical capabilities, we can be able to pool our resources and we can be able to help them to access the market. The KRA has talked about their role in that, and I'm happy that they've called for our partnership with them so that we can be able to educate the women and so that they can be able to tap those opportunities. we talked about the simplified tax regime, and I'm sure they are also looking into how it is that they're able to align what we have for the EAC and what the Free Africa Continental Trade is having or describing as the simplified tax regime. Because I think as we're in a threshold of 2,000 and the Free Africa Continental Trade is in a threshold of $5,000 US, I think those are areas that are being addressed and creating that awareness. I'm happy when we say that we have help desks across all borders where women can be able to get help. But how do we communicate even to our own officers that they understand that there's an intentional need to simply just understand that the women and the youth are a bit marginalized, not marginalized because it's a cultural biasness that is there. So we need to be aware of it because the cultural biasness is so natural that we don't even think that is a barrier for women. How do we educate the people who we are working with so that they understand those cultural norms and they are aware of them and they're able to know is that the women are not asking for favor, but it is that they need to be, we need to have in mind that there's a bit of bias, cultural barrier that has come up with how we have been put together. I think those will be my remarks for today, and I'm very happy and encouraged, and I thank KAM for giving us this opportunity as women in manufacturing so that we can be able to grow and empower our women so that we can contribute to the economy of growing our continent, Africa. Thank you, Abel.
Thank you, Mary. Lastly, we'll introduce our last speaker from Kenya Bureau of Standards, Madam Lucy. She's the manager of Trade Affairs, and she'll speak about the impact of the impact and the sensitivity of standards and standardization in supporting cross-border trade within AfCFTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Abel, and good afternoon, everybody. I'll be talking about the issue of standards. So as part of the introduction, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, as we all know, is the national standards body in Kenya with a mandate which revolves basically around standardization, metrology, and conformity assessment. So in relation to the standards that will be used across the AfCFTA, we do have a hierarchy of standards, and we start with the international ones. So where we have an international standard which is applicable, for example, the ISO standards, IEC standards, Codex standards, this will be the first point of application. But below that, we do have the regional standards, for example, the ARSO standards. And if perhaps there is no applicable ARSO standard, then the person who is exporting, the exporting country would need to fulfill the requirements of the destination market. So for example, if somebody is exporting here to the EAC and there's an applicable EAC standard, then that is what they'll use. So that is the hierarchy that we go for. So in relation to harmonization of standards in the AfCFTA, so the regional body which is charged with the coordination of development of regional standards is called ARSO. That's the African Continental, African Organization for Standardization. And most of the African countries are members, including Kenya, where we have 42 so far member states. And at ARSO, a lot of work has been ongoing. We have over 80 technical committees, which are mainly coordinated through the national standards bodies. So for coordination of the harmonization, this is usually done through the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which is the national standards bodies. And then the national committee has a national position, which is now presented at the regional level. So far, over 1,200 harmonized ARSO standards have been developed. So in relation to conformity assessment, we do have ARSO Conformity Assessment Committee as well. So there are many structures at regional level. So in Kenya here, in relation to inclusion of women, we've made sure women are very well included in the standardization process by way of opening up the recruitment process. So the membership to the national technical committees is actually open to all. And what we've noticed is of late, a lot of women are able now to be members of the technical committees. And in relation to the standardization mark, we have also an SME category where the ladies and SMEs are, they usually pay less for the application process. And this has actually enabled a lot of women-owned enterprises to acquire the all-important standardization mark, and this has assisted them to facilitate trade. So we are looking at the lady who is using her kitchen area to bake, some cakes or make some yogurt and so on and so forth. So these people are, most of these women-led enterprises, they have now come out in the open, and we've been able to assist them to be able to access the markets. So in relation to mutual recognition of standardization marks within the standards body, so right now it's mainly at the RECs. So like, for example, at EAC level, there's mutual recognition of the standardization marks by 5 partner states, that's Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. We are at the level of discussions to move this now to the continental level, because recognition of marks would mean a harmonization of the processes and the procedures. So that is an ongoing process, but currently, at least in EAC, we do have mutual recognition of those standardization marks. So we do encourage all the ladies to be part of the standardization processes, and also to just come up and visit the Kenya Bureau of Standards if they require assistance in relation to acquisition of the standardization mark, which will assist them now to access the regional market. Thank you very much, and over to you, Eben.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Lucy, for that insightful feedback. I think most of the manufacturers will indeed be reaching out to you specifically around standardization, because I think it has been highlighted as one of the gray areas where they would need support when they're trying to reach out to the export markets. So at this point, I'll open up the session for question and answer just for about 6 minutes. I'm glad that most of the questions which have been, in fact, not most, all the questions that have been asked on the Q&A function have all been answered by our experts. So I'll give a chance to 2 people maybe from the audience, from the attendees to speak, at least the ones that have already raised their hands. To start with, I'll ask our director, Mr. Ashit Shah, to make comments and also ask his question. Then Bharat Patel, you may also ask your question. Then afterwards, anyone else, I'll give it a chance to anyone else who has a question that they would like to direct to the experts that we have in the webinar today, to raise their hands, and I'll give them the function to speak. So Mr. Ashit, you may. Ashit, you may unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you very much for all the good presentations, starting from Walter, Abel, Mary, and Rose Rono, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. I think as Kenya, we are in a very good position to export to the rest of the African countries, and we need to look at the right products where we can actually capture the market and trade with these countries. We need to look at more insight on the details of what these people are importing, what these countries are importing in terms of products and HS code, and what Kenya is very strong in exporting to these countries. I have asked a few questions, Abel, if you can take them up and see, so that our members who have attended this seminar can also get more highlights on them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashit. I'll take up the questions, and in the follow-up communications and conversations with the members, we'll share the feedback as part of the webinar documentation. Thank you. Then Bharat. Bharat Patel. If not, is there anyone else maybe who would like to ask a question as we draw maybe to the close of this webinar? Okay. Yeah, so maybe let me take you maybe some key way forwards from the session that we've just had today. First of all, much appreciation to our speakers, to our panelists for gracing this event and providing their expert intel and expertise to the manufacturers within this session. I think one of the key areas which has been around media and also as queries coming to KAM with regard to AfCFTA is on the piloting, which is being done on several countries, including Kenya, Ghana, and Cameroon. We've shared out this flyer to members to express their interest to participate in this trade. But basically, it's a pilot of what AfCFTA would look like once it goes live and actual trading starts happening. And as Kenya, from the selected countries, we would be interested in Ghana and Cameroon that are not currently part of COMESA and EAC from the 7 countries that are piloting this program. Then secondly, the panelists have talked about driving the export competitiveness of the country and also ensuring that we are able to work on the parallel framework and the parallel things that will ensure that Kenya is able to be a competitive country, not just in the trading blocks that we are currently participating in, but also in the AfCFTA. And as such, CAM has organized some sector consultative sessions. We'll be sharing the dates and the timelines through the sector officers and the sector management. And the sector consultative sessions will address maybe 2 key questions. Why are manufacturers not exporting? So this is specifically for companies, for sectors that are not doing any export within themselves. Then secondly, we'll also try to address the question of why are manufactured or value-added exports not growing. This is specifically where we already do have manufacturers exporting, but there is some level of stagnation in the growth of these exports, and we expect that the outcomes from this process will be critical in enabling us to work together as partners with our ministries, departments, and agencies that have always been handy to support our requests and proposals on some of these areas. Then on the second area, which is critical in our engagements with the sectors, is capacity building and sensitization on AfCFTA trade instruments, including the rules of origin and trade facilitation. This will ensure that we are able to share the knowledge and the status of the agreed trading instruments and regime within AfCFTA within the sectors. In some of the sectors, there are some sector-specific requirements, and these will be shared with the sectors through these engagements. Then from our end, we'll share the presentation which was done by Walter. We'll also share a policy brief that we've done from the CAM study that we had, and also from our involvement in the negotiations process. We'll also share a live recording of this webinar. This is at least for future reference and also for the members that were not able to join us today. Alongside this, we'll also share the responses to the questions that have been asked by the attendees. I believe most of the questions are not company specific, but would also be beneficial to the rest of the members, as noted by Mr. Ashit. Then lastly, for any feedback that you'd like to have around AfCFTA, you can direct them to me. Myself, I'm Abel Kamau, the CAM Trade and Policy Manager. You may also direct them to Walter Kamau. And for specific questions and queries around women in manufacturing, please direct them to Ms. Grace Mbogo, who handles that platform. So much appreciation to all the attendees, to the panelists for this session. And I think we've come to the end of this, and wishing everybody a good day and rest of the week. And also wishing everybody a good experience as we exercise our democratic rights on Tuesday during the election hearing period and process. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Abel, and bye-bye, colleagues.
Thank you so much, everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.